What's up, y'all? Welcome back. As you can see, now that we are a professional YouTube channel, we have very realistic microphones that clearly are doing a lot for our sound quality. It's very nice to see you all again. Welcome back to this week's Refresh and Refill. Today we are going to be talking about the fruits of the Spirit, and we're going to do it over a couple of weeks. And so me and Lynn are each going to take one, and then we'll talk on it, and then we'll just kind of keep going through till we hit them all. So to start out, I will be doing the very first one, which is love, and Lynn will be doing the second one, which is joy. So buckle up. I'll go ahead and read Galatians 5:22, which says, "But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness." And then there's also gentleness and self-control, which is in verse 23. But for 22, we're going to be looking at love and joy. And so I would like to go ahead and hit on love. And one of the things I'd like to do, just straight out front, is flip over to 1 John 4, verse 18. And it says, "There's no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear, because fear involves punishment, and the one who fears is not perfected in love." So I think for me, lately in life, with just how everything's been going, I think I've been really struggling with that fear aspect of things. And I find it very interesting that God put fear and love in the same area, because on the surface, I feel like you don't really notice where fear and love tie into one another. But one of the things that has really been hitting me lately, and one of the reasons I was really happy to share about this, is because one of the things about love is it can be very scary to love the way we've been called to love. So for instance, today I had a really cool opportunity. I got to run my full day of appointments with my one of my big bosses, and I had a really good time running with him, and we ended up talking a lot about God and stuff, and I said things to a 44-year-old man that, I mean, it's scary to say those things for more than one reason. Obviously because of my age comparison to his, and then also because of, our work relationship and the way that looks, to say some of the things I said out of love. Hello, Zeus. Out of love, they were scary. And it was something that, I think a lot of the times where we as Christians don't love or choose not to love is completely out of fear. And that's why I see the meaning behind this verse here in 1 John, because I find it so powerful, because I know in my life I've seen many a times where my love has been hindered by the fear I have, whether it's, a fear of failure, whether it's a fear of things being difficult, whether it's a fear of Zeus. But I mean, to be real, the idea behind loving wholeheartedly and loving in a Christian aspect is very fearful, because it is not loving in a way that benefits you. It's loving in a way that benefits people around you. Mm-hmm. And I think that can be very fearful at times. And then also on the same aspect of that, I believe that when you are living in a state of fear, you can really have a hard time to love while you're in that fear. Because one of the things about fear is it draws our attention completely on ourselves. Like when we're in a place of fear, what do? We're thinking about what we're scared of continually. Like it is occupying our mind when we're fearful. Whether it's you're worried about, what tomorrow is going to look like, what, a year from now is going to look like, what does future hold for you guys? No matter what that is, it's very easy to get into this little world of all about yourself when you fall into fear, I feel like. And so I think that's one of the reasons that, for one, there is no fear in love. And so you cannot be fearful while you are loving in the way we're called to love, because the way we're called to love is to be completely selfless. And so when you're fearing, you're putting everything back to yourself. Like you're putting yourself at the center because of what you're fearing. And so I think that's been a big thing for me. I know as we've been walking, and I feel like I've been I was in a pretty heavy state over the past couple of months of being fearful about, what next steps were for us. And every time I find myself doing that, I find myself not being able to love, not being able to love you, not being able to love the people around me, like not focusing as much on things like, making videos and stuff like that, because it's harder for me to show my love when I'm in a state of fear. And so what I want to encourage you guys when it comes to love, obviously there's, love looks so like, there's so many different ways that love can be taken. There's a lot of different ways to love. And I just want to encourage you guys and focus today on the aspect of a perfect love that casts out fear. Because one of the things is when you're really with Christ in that way where his love is enough for you, all of a sudden, all that fear just goes away. Like you're all of a sudden in a space where you can handle things that you could not handle before. And you can love people, unhindered by what people think about you or what you think about you, because you don't have to fear it because you have perfect love. And so obviously we know that perfect love comes from Christ. And so when we're living in Christ's love, I think it's just that aspect of, drowning out all that fear in our lives. And so that's what really stuck out to me, especially because I feel like it's pretty relative as far as, what we've been walking through and where I've seen myself allow myself to get in a fearful position as far as I feared what's going to be next. I feared if I was doing enough and all that kind of stuff. And it made me not love the way I was supposed to love. And so I just encourage you guys to be willing to love in a way that is bold and love in a way that casts out that fear and allow God to work through you in his loving power. I think is the biggest thing for me when it comes to love right now. With that, Joy.
So joy, I think of a couple different things.
Okay.
Like I always do. I always feel like I think about it in so many different, like I feel like my brain's like a train and you have all these different cars, and that's like my thought process. It's
Your train of thought?
Yeah. Almost like it's like that. Anyways, and so my train of thought first is joy and happiness are different.
Right.
Joy is, I think, a state of like, it's something that doesn't shift on circumstances. And happiness flows with the moment,
Right.
Like I mean, like tonight we'll be sitting here watching, like I'm happy.
Right.
But like being joyful is so much deeper than just happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think happiness is based on circumstances and joy is something in spite of the circumstances.
Yeah.
And so that's the first one that I think of. And then which leads me to my next car in the train, is it makes me think of that verse, and I cannot remember where it's at, where it talks about like the joy that was set before Jesus when he went to the cross.
Yeah, Hebrews 12, 2 or 3.
Look it up. And just talking and just saying like we are that joy. Like in spite of the pain and the suffering he was about to go through, he still had that joy. It was the joy that was set before him, and we were that joy for him.
Yeah.
And how I don't know, I just think that's a really good reminder. And like I went back to the first thing, like in spite of circumstances, even sometimes we can see that we're about to go through a hard time,
mm-hmm.
and how we can still find joy in that because we have I don't know how to say it, like
confidence.
Yeah, it's a confidence, but like no matter what we go through in this life, like this is in our home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so like we can like Jesus, like he knew that this wasn't his home.
Right.
That he was coming here because he loved us and he was bringing salvation, but like this isn't where he was going to stay.
Right.
And so I feel like we can do the same thing. Like sometimes we can see that we're about to walk into something hard, And we can still have that joy because our joy is based on something so much greater than what we're about to walk through.
Right.
And sometimes when we don't see the hard times coming, we can still face them and find the joy that God gives us. And it also, I mean, even though it doesn't say joy in the verse, it makes me think of Lamentations. I always said
Lamentations.
Lamentations. Is it Lamentations?
Lamentations.
Learn something every day. In Lamentations, there's a verse that talks about how his mercies are new every morning. And I think one of his mercies is joy. I think his mercies are the fruit of the Spirit and what he gives us. And that's new every single morning.
Right.
And so I really like that. I also, I really like love too because it's unconditional. And it's, I don't know, I feel like today love can mean so many different things.
Right.
Like you said, like it's defined in so many different ways.
Right.
And I think it's also very overused.
Oh, absolutely.
Like I am guilty of saying like I love everything. And I think that we need to be careful and not be like sparingly in saying that I love you, but like, do you really do I really love this blanket?
Right.
Like, do I really love, like, no, I don't.
Right.
Because it's not an unconditional, it's not a relationship thing.
Right.
And so anyways, I was just thinking about that while you're talking about love.
I agree. Well, and I think to go on that point, it's one of the reasons why you have to, like, you can't have fear in this style of love because
I think we're called to love in such a different way.
Right, yeah. Well, because, like, in normal love, you're worrying about, does that person love me back? Whereas when you have unconditional love, you take all that worry out because you are saying whether or not you love me, whether or not you benefit me, I love you.
Yeah.
And I do think that's a key to it. Well, and I love the fruits of the Spirit because they go hand in hand. And so with love, there also comes joy. When you're outside of that fear, I mean, you're usually in a much more joyful place when you can step outside of fear, when you start loving people, when you start actually like doing things for other people instead of just doing everything for yourself. All of a sudden, boom, now I'm more joyful because I'm actually benefiting people with what I'm doing. It's so cool. I like this. In my study Bible, it says joy is the settled celebration of the soul within us, even when circumstances don't make us happy. And I feel like that's a perfect idea. It's you take the fear out of these stressful circumstances, you get joy, you get love. And obviously we can go down all the lists of the fruits of the Spirit. One of the other things I love that I want to mention when it just, as far as the fruits of the Spirit are concerned, is something that Tony Evans has said that I really like. And it's how one of the things about the fruits of the Spirit is you can't do the fruits of the Spirit outside of the Spirit. And so it's like, these aren't things that we're doing. Like, we're not going to love unconditionally. We're not going to have joy. We're not going to have peace. We're not going to have patience. The Spirit will give that to us when we walk in the Spirit. And I think that's so crucial because if you backtrack, you'll see all these things of the flesh. So if you read a few verses before, all of a sudden we're seeing all these things of the flesh, like envy, witchcraft, idolatry, hostilities, strife. All of a sudden, that's the flesh. That's what we can do. But then you just stop doing and you let Spirit do. And all of a sudden we have love, we have joy, we have peace, patience, kindness, and it just goes on and on. And I just think that's a beautiful thing. But I loved what you said. I mean, I think it's just so true. It's the idea of an unwavering joy is just like that. It's when you can wake up in the morning and you can see the mercies that are new because your joy is not grounded on how good of a day. It's grounded on no matter what happens today, joy is my choice. Yeah. And I think that's crucial.
Well, I also think that, like, the fruits of the Spirit, when you think about that, like, one, when we show the fruits of the Spirit, I think that's contagious.
Right.
And then I also think that it's contagious in and of itself. Like, if you have love, you're going to grow in joy. And if you have joy, you're going to grow in kindness. And if you have like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they all, like, it's not, you can't just have one. Like, I can't only be joyful.
Right.
Because then I won't be kind, I won't be patient, I won't have goodness, I won't be self-controlled.
Right.
Like, it's a list because we need to have all of these things. And that doesn't mean that we have to do it perfectly. Right. But, like, I think that I don't know. I just think
it's working to strive to put all of these together.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, again, the fruits of the Spirit always makes me think of John 15, which is the verse about abiding in Christ
yeah.
and how we should bear much fruit. And what is the fruit we should bear? Well, He gives us a list.
Right, absolutely.
And so, yeah.
And I like that because it's the whole idea of, it's, I feel like when we think of us bearing fruit, we put all the pressure on ourselves to be the ones bearing fruit. But if we just abide in the vine, the fruit will come.
Yeah.
I love that. You got anything else?
I don't think so. I think that's the end of my train.
No, it's a good train. I think it's a perfect time to reach the station. But guys, I think for you guys, what biggest thing to take away is just, start diving into these fruits of the Spirit. And I would say this week, focus on these two. Like Linan said, you can't just have two. Like, read these for yourself, read through what the flesh has to say before it, the things of the flesh as well. Because I think if you miss that context of the verse, it can be detrimental. And so make sure to read those verses before where it talks about the things of the flesh, because when you can see what not to do while seeing what to do, you can help recognize how to walk in the Spirit a little bit better. With that, our song of the week is a song. It's going to be Altar by Hulvey and Forrest Frank. Me, Linan, Drew, Madison, Lizzie, Lacey, and a couple other of our friends went and watched a Hulvey concert, and I just love this song, and that's what he closed with, and we just kind of kept repeating the chorus, and it was just so beautiful to see a group of people just singing and praising God like that. And so it's a little bit more of a hip-hop song, so don't judge it. It's a great song, and I think it really is just cool to get to worship God like that. With that, I will say, just very quickly, if you're not a part of our youth group, welcome to Refresh and Refill. I'm very blessed and honored that God has given us a platform to start doing this on, and I look forward to seeing it grow. It's now, the whole reason we went to like a YouTube style is to make it more shareable, make it easy to access, make it something that, isn't as confusing as a Google Drive. And so I'm very, very excited for what God will do with it. I encourage you guys, don't share it for us, share it so that we can spread the word. I'm just looking forward to what God's going to do through us. And then also a super cool announcement. The Martin family and plus friends and family are going to be starting a conference called the We Are Conference, and the first one's going to be April 20th, which is a Saturday. It'll be an all-day event from 10 a.m. till the Lord leads us to stop. I'm going to give a message. My dad's going to give a message. Pastor Tim, who's my old childhood pastor, will give a message. There'll be worship, food, time for prayer and gathering together. I am extremely excited for it. And I pray that you all get to make it. Like I said, it's April 20th, starts at 10. This is an event that is styled after the early church, where people got together and would they spent more than one day, but let's just start at a day to come and have church together without an agenda, without a timeline. We're not worrying to get anywhere. We're staying in the Spirit until the Lord leads, and we are going to see radical transformation in our city, and I believe that, and I think this is a huge key. I think this YouTube channel is a great key. I think we have the opportunity to start reaching people in every way possible. I was listening to Billy Graham the other day, back when YouTube was not necessarily a thing, and he was talking about the introduction of TV and how sermons were being preached on the TV and how beneficial it was for us to use the technological advancements to better the gospel. And I'm excited that we get to do that. So it's the We Are Conference. We'll have more details and stuff, but just know it's an all-day event. It'll be April 20th. We want to see everyone there. It's families, it's youth, it's adults, it's anyone and everyone. We are coming together as the church, the Big C Church, and I'm very excited about it. So we hope to see you there. Once we get some more flyers and stuff, I'll post them in probably like the comments and not the comments, but like the description and stuff like that. But I'm excited for where the Lord's leading us, and I look forward to seeing you all very soon. And with that, deuces and Zeus's.